The morning sun spilled through the glass windows of the Golden Cup Cafe, painting the polished wooden tables in shades of gold and amber and filling the air with the rich aroma of freshly ground coffee beans. It was a regular weekday morning, and the cafe was alive with chatter and laughter from people rushing to work, couples on breakfast dates, and students tapping away on their laptops. In the corner, everyone seemed busy, except for one man who sat quietly at a small table near the window wearing a worn hoodie and an old baseball cap pulled low over his eyes. He looked like just another customer, but in truth, he was the owner of the entire place. His name was Michael Grant, a man who had built an empire from nothing years ago. He had been broke, struggling to pay rent, working day and night just to make ends meet. He had started roasting beans in his garage, selling cups of coffee from a small cart on the street corner. His passion was simple. He wanted to serve people, something that made them smile and forget their troubles for a moment. His dream grew bigger every year until one day, the Golden Cup Cafe became one of the most loved spots in the city. But with success came distance. Michael had opened several branches, hired dozens of employees, and built a life of comfort and luxury, yet something inside him felt empty. He couldn't remember the last time he had spoken to a customer face to face or listened to the sound of steaming milk and clinking cups that once made him so happy. Instead, he spent his days behind a desk, signing papers and answering phone calls. Everything felt cold and mechanical. He missed the warmth, the heart, and the humanity that had once defined his dream. Rumors had started reaching him, whispers that not all was well inside his cafe. Some customers had complained that the staff had grown arrogant, that the place had lost its charm, that kindness had been replaced by routine. At first, he brushed it off, but deep down, he knew there was only one way to find out the truth himself. So that morning, without telling anyone, he decided to become invisible again, not as the rich man with the tailored suit and expensive watch, but as an ordinary stranger blending into the crowd. He wanted to see his cafe the way the world saw it. He wanted to see if the soul of the Golden Cup was still alive, or if success had quietly killed it. Somewhere along the way, as he took a slow sip of his coffee and watched the staff moving behind the counter, Michael had no idea that this simple visit would change everything. He thought he knew about his business and about himself. The cafe buzzed with life, the steady hum of conversation, blending with the rhythmic hiss of the espresso machine and the soft clinking of cups against saucers. Michael stood in line, his hands shoved into the pockets of his old hoodie, observing every tiny detail like a silent judge. He watched as one barista forced a smile at a customer but rolled his eyes. The moment the person turned away, another cashier chatted with her coworker, ignoring the elderly woman waiting patiently to pay for her drink. Michael's heart sank a little. This wasn't what he had built the Golden Cup to be when he started this business. It was supposed to feel like home, a place where everyone was treated with warmth and care, not just another spot to grab caffeine and rush out the door. He could feel disappointment building inside him, but he kept quiet, pretending to be just another face in the crowd. As he stepped closer to the counter, a new barista came forward to take his order. She looked young, maybe in her mid-20s, with deep brown skin and eyes that held both kindness and quiet strength. Her name tag said Ava, and the way she smiled at each customer felt different. It wasn't fake or forced. It was genuine, the kind of smile that made people feel seen. When his turn came, she greeted him with a cheerful voice that cut through the noise around them. "Good morning. What can I get for you today?" He hesitated for a second, then said, "Just a black coffee, please. No sugar, no cream." Ava nodded, her smile never fading. "Coming right up," she said, and moved with graceful speed, preparing the order herself, even though another worker tried to take over. Michael noticed how she thanked every customer personally and called them by name if she remembered them. She didn't seem to care what anyone looked like or how they were dressed. Everyone got the same warmth, the same respect. It reminded him of how he used to run things back when he was behind the counter, pouring coffee himself. A few minutes later, Ava placed his cup in front of him. With a soft smile, "Here you go, sir. Enjoy your coffee." Her tone carried sincerity, not the tired, automatic politeness he'd seen from the others. As he reached for the cup, she looked at him for a moment, studying his face, then said something that made him freeze right where he stood three small words that cut straight through his disguise and touched something deep inside his heart. "You look lost," the words floated gently through the noise of the cafe, but to Michael they sounded louder than anything else. For a moment, he just stood there, blinking, unsure if he had heard her. Right. His fingers tightened around the warm paper cup, and he looked up at her, confused. "What did you say?" he asked softly. Ava's expression didn't change. She smiled the same gentle smile and repeated, "You look lost." There was no judgment in her voice, no pity, just quiet concern, the kind that comes from someone who truly notices others. Her eyes met his, and for the first time in a long while, Michael felt seen, not as a millionaire, not as a businessman, but as a man, a person who maybe had been running so fast that he forgot where he was going. He tried to laugh it off, saying, "Oh, I guess I just didn't sleep much," but she tilted her head slightly, like she could see through the lie. "Maybe she could," she said it softly, but her words carried a strange power. "You look like you could use a friend more than coffee." Michael froze, again his heart thudding hard. Against his ribs, no one had spoken to him like that in years. Most people only talked to him because of what he owned, not because they actually cared how he was feeling. But this young woman who didn't even know who he was had looked right through the surface and reached something deeper. He cleared his throat, trying to regain his composure. "Maybe you're right," he said, forcing a small smile, rough. "Morning, you know." Ava nodded. "I get those too," she replied, "but hey, a warm drink helps, and sometimes just talking helps even more." She said it like it was the most natural thing in the world. For a second, Michael didn't know how to respond. He was supposed to be the one observing, judging, seeing how others acted, yet now he was the one being seen. His disguise had worked too well. It had stripped away everything except the truth that somewhere along the line he really had become lost. As he walked to his seat with his coffee in hand, her words kept echoing in his mind. "You look lost." It wasn't just an observation. It was a mirror showing him exactly what he had been avoiding for years. Ava didn't rush off to the next customer. Instead, she leaned slightly on the counter, her arms folded and her expression soft. She seemed to sense that Michael needed more than caffeine. He took a slow sip of his coffee, mostly to give himself time to think. She smiled again and asked, "So what's got you looking so lost today? Rough week or rough life?" He let out a quiet chuckle, the first real one in a while. "Maybe a bit of both," he said. Something about her presence made it easy to talk, easier than it should have been. He found himself asking about her instead. "What about you? You always this cheerful?" Ava laughed a little, the sound light and warm. "Not always," she admitted. "I just try to be. I figure life's already hard enough, might as well make someone's day better if I can." Her words hit him harder than he expected. She spoke with simple honesty, not rehearsed or polished, but real. She told him a bit about herself, how she worked 2 jobs and took night classes at the community college, how her mother had passed away a few years back, leaving her to take care of her younger brother, Marcus. But she never complained. Instead, she said with a shrug, "I've got to keep moving forward. He needs me." Michael listened, silently humbled by her strength and optimism. He had met countless people in business, but few who spoke with such quiet dignity. Then he asked, "What do you think of this cafe? Be honest. I won't tell the owner." Ava hesitated, glancing around as if making sure no one else was listening. Then she sighed. "I love this place," she said softly, "but it's changed. It used to feel like home." Everyone smiled and helped each other. Now some folks act like they're too good for certain customers, especially people who don't look rich. It hurts to see that. Michael felt a sting in his chest. She had no idea that the owner she was talking about was sitting right in front of her. He tried to hide his reaction, but his heart was heavy. The very thing he had feared was true. His dream had lost its heart. Ava smiled again, as if sensing his silence. "Don't mind me," she said. "I'm just hoping the boss shows up one day to see things for himself. Maybe then he'd remember why he started this place." Michael lowered his gaze to his cup, the bitter taste of black coffee matching the ache rising in his chest. He didn't know it yet, but her words were about to change everything. After finishing his coffee, Michael decided not to leave. Just yet, something inside him told him to stay to watch. And to see if Ava's words were true, he chose a quiet seat in the corner from where he could see almost everything without being noticed. The cafe looked bright and welcoming on the outside, but as the Minutes passed, he started noticing small cracks in the surface. A young mother walked in holding a toddler by the hand. She looked tired, her clothes simple in her wallet. Worn, she ordered a small latte and asked if she could get a kid's cup for her child. The barista behind the counter didn't even look up, just muttered, "Policy doesn't allow that," and waved her away. Without a hint of care, the mother sighed, thanked him anyway, and took her drink. While trying to calm her crying child, Michael's jaw tightened. That wasn't how things used to be. Then he saw an elderly man struggling to read the menu, his hands shaking slightly as he pulled out a few coins. Another employee looked annoyed, tapping her fingers on the counter as if she didn't have the patience to wait. Ava noticed and quickly stepped in with her bright smile. "Don't worry, sir, take your time," she said softly, and helped him pick something affordable. She even added a free muffin on the side, saying it was an extra from the morning batch. The old man left smiling, and Michael felt something shift inside him. Ava treated every person like they mattered, rich or poor. Young or old, she saw them as human beings, not transactions, while the rest of the staff seemed to have forgotten what that meant. It wasn't just about coffee, it was about kindness, and somewhere along the road his cafe had lost that. Michael sat back feeling a mix of guilt and pride. Guilt because this decay had happened under his watch, and pride because at least one person still carried the flame he had lit long ago. He looked at Ava moving through the cafe, refilling cups, wiping tables, chatting with customers. She radiated warmth in a place that had turned cold. Her presence reminded him of his younger self, when he used to smile at every face behind the counter, when each cup of coffee carried a little bit of his heart. Now that heart was fading, and he knew he couldn't let that continue. As he watched her laugh with a group of regulars, he made a quiet promise to himself to find out exactly how deep the problem went and to bring back the soul of the golden cup, no matter what it took. The next morning, the cafe buzzed with the same usual energy, but this time there was a different kind of tension in the air. Word had spread quickly that the owner himself was coming to visit. The staff whispered to each other nervously, wondering why the sudden announcement. Some straightened their aprons. Others practiced their fake smiles, while a few didn't seem to care at all. Ava, however, just kept working, quietly as she always did, polite, kind, and focused. When the front door opened, a hush fell over the room. The man who walked in wasn't wearing a hoodie anymore. Instead, he was dressed in a tailored navy suit, his shoes polished and his posture confident. Every head turned and whispers began to ripple through the crowd when he finally spoke. The room went completely silent. "Good morning, everyone," he said. With calm authority, "My name is Michael Grant, and I'm the owner of the Golden Cup." Ava froze for a moment, her heart skipping a beat as she looked at him closely, recognizing the eyes of the man who had ordered a black coffee the day before. Her mouth parted slightly in shock, but she said nothing, just listened as Michael continued speaking. "Yesterday, I came here not as your boss, but as a customer." He paused, letting the words sink in. "I wanted to see how my cafe truly runs when no one knows who's watching." You could feel the unease growing among the staff. Some exchanged nervous glances, others avoided eye contact. Michael slowly walked behind the counter, his tone steady but filled with disappointment. "I saw things I never thought I'd see in this place," he said. "Customers ignored, employees snapping at people for no reason, kindness replaced with attitude." He turned toward Ava, who stood quietly near the register. "But then I also saw something else, someone who reminded me what this cafe used to stand for." Every pair of eyes turned toward Ava. She looked down, embarrassed, as Michael smiled softly. "This woman here," he said, pointing to her, "treated every single person with respect. She cared when others didn't. She spoke truth even when she thought no one was listening." The cafe was completely silent now. Some staff members shifted uncomfortably, knowing exactly what he meant. Michael's voice grew firm again from this moment on. "Things will change," he said. "This cafe will go back to what it was, meant to be a place of warmth, not arrogance. If you can't stand for that, you're free to leave right now." No one moved, but the message was clear. The Golden Cup was about to be reborn, and it all started with 3 words from a waitress who saw what no one else did. After the meeting ended, the staff began to scatter, murmuring among themselves, unsure of what would happen next. Michael stayed behind, standing near the counter, his expression Softer now, Ava was wiping down the espresso machine, trying to steady her, breathing when she heard his voice. Ava, could you stay for a moment? Please, she turned around, her hand still, trembling a little, her voice small and uncertain. Yes, sir, did I do something wrong? Michael shook his head, a gentle smile forming on his face, quite the opposite. Actually, you did everything right. She blinked, confused. He motioned for her to sit at one of the tables. She hesitated, but obeyed, sitting across from him, her mind racing, wondering why the owner of the cafe, the millionaire himself, wanted to talk to her alone. He took a deep breath and began explaining the truth. I came here yesterday in disguise. He said I wanted to see how my business really ran. When I wasn't around, I needed to know if the heart of this place was still alive. Ava's eyes widened. She finally understood. The stranger from yesterday, the man in the hoodie. That was you, she whispered. He nodded. Yes, that was me, and everything you said, everything you did, it opened my eyes. He reached into his briefcase and pulled out a white envelope, sliding it across the table to her. She looked at it hesitantly. What's this? She asked. He smiled. Open it. Inside was a check with her name written on it, a number that made her hands shake. Then she noticed a folded letter beneath it. She opened it and began to read slowly, her lips parting in disbelief. It was a scholarship for her younger brother Marcus, covering his entire college tuition, and beneath it an offer letter from the Golden Cup, granting her a promotion to cafe manager starting immediately. Her eyes filled with tears. She looked up, unable to speak. Mr. Grant, I don't understand. Why would you do this for me? Michael's gaze softened. Because when I looked lost, you saw me, he said simply. You didn't know who I was, but you cared anyway. You reminded me why I started all this, not for money, not for fame, but for people like you. Kind, honest, and strong. You brought the heart back into my business and into me. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she tried to thank him, but no words came, only a quiet nod and a smile. Michael stood and extended his hand. Welcome to your new beginning, Ava, he said, and for the first time in a long while, both of them felt like they had truly found home. From that day on, the Golden Cup Cafe was never the same. Ava stepped into her new role with humility and passion, determined to bring warmth back into every corner of the place. She retrained the staff, teaching them not just how to make coffee, but how to make people feel seen. She reminded them that every customer, no matter how they looked, deserved respect and care. The cafe began to change. Quickly, the smiles returned, the laughter came back, and the same walls that once echoed with impatience now carried the soft hum of kindness. Regulars who had stopped coming slowly returned, noticing the difference. People began calling it the happiest cafe in town, again, just like it had been years ago. Michael often visited now, not as a distant boss, but as a man who sat among the customers, chatting, laughing, and remembering what it felt like to belong. He and Ava became good friends, sharing ideas on how to expand the Golden Cup's mission to spread compassion beyond just one coffee shop. Soon the cafe started, offering community events, free coffee mornings for the homeless, and job training for young people who needed a second chance. Michael's empire grew even stronger, but his heart stayed grounded. He often told his employees, success isn't measured by how much we earn. It's measured by how many lives we touch. And every time he said it, Ava smiled, knowing her three simple words had sparked a change far greater than she could ever imagine. She had reminded a millionaire of his purpose, and in doing so had changed both of their lives forever. And whenever new workers joined the team, Ava would tell them the story of a man who once came in for a cup of coffee, looking completely lost, and how that one encounter reminded them all what true wealth really means. Not money, not fame, but kindness, the kind that reaches beyond words and leaves an imprint that never fades. Narrator voice warm and steady. Sometimes the smallest act of kindness can change an entire life. All it takes is a moment to care and three simple words that reach the heart. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful real-life stories that touch the soul. Thank you for watching, and remember, always lead with kindness.